Hello, welcome back. This episode is a little bit of like a vulnerable share episode. I got the idea from one of you. I often on my Instagram stories, and also there's literally a direct link in the description of this episode, of every episode, where you can ask me a question. So you've seen me do Q&A episodes before, and recently someone had asked, what are some personally challenging things that you've been through? And essentially, what was your mindset practice, or what was your mindset like during those situations? And I looked at that and was like, yes, that's a good question. We love this. I'll get into this for sure. I'll share this stuff with you guys. But I think it's actually worth doing a whole episode on. So that's what we're doing today. And you hear me talking so much about growth mindset and how important it is to embrace change and setbacks and challenges and see them as opportunities for growth, and how that's such a big part of what makes up your mindset. And if you're able to do all of those things, you will have more of a growth mindset and therefore more likely to be successful. But easier said than done, right? When you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, the last thing you typically will think about is, oh, what good is going to come from this situation? What am I going to learn here? How grateful am I for this experience? It can be tough. It feels all fine and dandy and easy to say now until you're in it. And I do wonder, and this is totally an assumption of mine, but I wonder, especially for those of you who follow more of my life on Instagram and things like that. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you'll want to follow my life on Instagram. That link is going to be in the show notes as well. But I wonder, especially being for lack of a better phrase, a mindset professional at this point, have been for a long time, and studied this stuff and spent so much time in it and mentor other people how to shift their mindset, shift the mindsets of their client. I wonder if y'all look at me and go, well, it's easy for her to say. It's easy for her to say that this is how you should perceive negative feedback, how you should work through challenges. But I don't have a PhD in psychology, and I didn't research mindset for years, and I haven't been in this stuff the way that she has. And I will say there's a grain of truth to that, because when you're in this stuff all the time, you're talking about mindset, you're telling yourself that challenges are opportunities to learn and obstacles are just a way to make you better. And if things are difficult, that's where you actually get the good stuff from. If you're constantly telling yourself this and talking about it like I am, you bet it's easier to do, because it's just something that's so ingrained in me. And, you're doing the next best thing by being here, listening to these episodes, consuming my content, becoming a health mindset certified coach if you've gone through HMCC. You're doing the next best thing. And just the more you're exposed to that, the more likely it is to become your natural pathway to go down. But on that note, that doesn't mean that I live a life of no challenges and no obstacles, no heartbreak, no difficulties. And it doesn't mean that my mindset is 100% growth in every single area all of the time. No. In fact, I love, and it's so meta, that this is such a growth mindset about my fixed mindset tendencies. I love when I catch myself in a fixed mindset, or I catch myself in a negative thought pattern, because I do catch myself. And I think that's maybe where, if I do have a leg up with my own mindset, that's where I do, is that I catch myself and I notice it, because I'm so much just like in the thick of it with all of this information. And I see that as an opportunity, like, ooh, what was that? Why did I think that way? Where did that come from? Or if something is difficult and challenging and just ugly, like I even had a couple of those instances this week with people on the internet, and other people in my life. It's felt kind of like one of those weeks where like everyone just like wants to argue with me. But anyway, I feel the same feelings you're feeling, but then I immediately go into, how am I thinking about this? What am I making this mean? What does this mean for me? What positive things can I get out of this? So with that said, I do want to go into some specific life events with you, which again makes this a little bit of like a vulnerable share podcast. So I would really love some feedback on this episode if this is something you want to hear from me, because to be honest, it's a lot more comfortable for me to just run through research studies and give you coaching tools and tips than it is for me to sit here and talk about difficult things that I've gone through. So if you listen to this episode, I really, really would appreciate it if you reached out to me on Instagram. You could send me an email, you could leave a review, anything like that. And also, if you leave a review, by the way, and then you screenshot that review and put it into our review form in the show notes, you will be entered to win a free workshop from me. So there's a win-win going on here. But I would really like to know, because if you listen to this episode and you're like, that was interesting for me to hear, but I would benefit more from just hearing more about coaching practices and the science of mindset and behavior change and psychology, I really do want to know those things. So let's get into the first thing I have decided to share with you. And if we're being totally honest, I was planning to not share this just for the sake of privacy and other people that are involved. So I am going to keep it relatively vague from that perspective. But this happened, like I said, in 2022, and it was someone who was working for me, and they essentially quit to go a different path in pursue their own business ventures sort of thing. And it ended on fine terms. However, there was some stuff going on that I was not privy to for months, even while this person was still working with me. And it was, I guess we'll just say, very much so in breach of the contract agreement that we had in place. And because of that situation, this led me to believe that what was happening with this person, that they were going to clients and people who have invested into the company and sharing untruthful information with those people in order to get them to leave. So that's kind of, again, the vague story there. And it was a personally hurtful situation because I am friends with everyone who works with me. Obviously, it's important to be a boss and be, to some degree, an authority figure. But also, I maintain personal relationships with all of my people, and we have a great time. I love my team. I love my people. They're all amazing. So when something like this happened, it felt a little bit, we've all been in these situations, right? Like, I feel like I don't even know this person, or I feel like this person's not grateful for all of the things that I've done for them. And that really sucks. Like, we're talking, I was sitting on my bathroom floor crying about it for a good bit the day that I learned all of this information. And my immediate thought, which is not where I think as many people go. I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, you're part of my community. You're probably not one of these people. But my immediate thought was not, how do I hurt this person back? It was just, oh, this really hurts me. And then immediately go into, what does this mean for the reputation of the business, for my reputation, if there was untruthful information shared in order to, spin a story in a certain way, and how that can come back, and now those people are telling other people who tell other people, and now what does that look like downstream effects of that, right? So immediately my thought is, how do we just ensure that that kind of downstream effect damage is not done? And how can we do this in a way where it's still very respectful to the person involved, respectful to the business, respectful to all the other people who were involved, and essentially clean up the situation without it turning into anything else? And for me personally, when I was going through all of this, it was, of course, we have those thoughts, right? Well, what did I do wrong? Was I not a good leader? Was I not a good boss? Was I not good enough to this person to lead to this type of circumstance? And that kind of responsibility, I think, is really important, but you have to be very cautious with it, because we do want to go there. Like, I'm not good enough, and that's why. Or you go the other direction of like, well, that person just flippin' sucks, and that's the reason why. But instead, I really wanted to see like, okay, where are my blind spots? Because we all have them. What could I have done differently? What could I have done better? How will this situation change me into the future? I mean, you can bet your butt that I learned a lot about contract agreements and legal things during this time too, which I'm certain, will set me up for future situations that I may have to be in just as the business grows and more people are involved and that sort of thing. But the people in my life and in my business during this time, it was such like a gift unexpected gift that I essentially would have to go to other people in the business, let them know what's going on. Again, very vague terms, keeping privacy and respect 100% there. And just the outpouring of love I got. Many of the comments that were made to me from other team members, the other people that still worked on my team, sit with me like to this day. To the degree of, I had one of the gals who was working for me at the time reach out personally and say, I just want you to know that I've worked a lot of jobs in a lot of businesses and done a lot of things, and you are by far the best boss that I've ever had. And so just like hearing things like that, not that I was seeking those things, it was just a really nice gift during a time of lots of turmoil, both like emotional, business, everything. And as you can imagine, this did go on and conversations were happening for a period of time. So I had a lot of opportunity to see like, okay, what else is going on here? What can be done? And yeah, so that was a tough situation, and it was so tough, so hard on me during that time. But there was a lot of good that came from it. And on that note, more business related things. I actually am not sure I've officially announced this anywhere ever yet, but I made the really tough decision to sunset the one-on-one coaching offer that we had inside my business. So KJO Coaching, it was my coaching business I was KJO coaching in 2016 when I was starting to coach by myself. And the brand just continued to evolve as I evolved, and we grew to have 3 to 6 assistant coaches at any time. And it was my first baby, my first business baby. And I got to the point where with the health mindset coaching certification, the mentorship that I do with coaches, in addition to owning the coaching business as well, was too much. I was not doing my best, and I could feel it in every sense. I was not doing my best because I felt so pulled in 2 different directions. And for a long time, I would think about, well, what would this look like if I only focused on mentoring coaches? And the main thing I did was the health mindset coaching certification. And really the biggest decision maker was the level of impact that I want to make. Like kind of always coming back to, and this is something that you guys can take away too, when you're in these decision making situations, what is your real outcome? Like what is the thing you're really striving for? What do you really want to do in your business, in your life? And mine is make a huge fucking impact in the health and fitness coaching industry. And yes, I can do that through hiring coaches, mentoring those coaches, having them work on my team and working with clients one-on-one. But I can make such a bigger impact if I am working with coaches who each individually have their own roster of clients, and then they continue to coach for years and years to come. Like that trickle-down effect is enormous and has huge potential compared to what I could do inside the coaching business. So that's like kind of like playing around with when you're in these tough decision times of what is it that I really want? What is the footprint that I'm wanting to leave? What does that look like? And what decision is going to allow me to get closer to that? So ultimately too, I knew I wasn't running the businesses and being the leader that I wanted to be because I was truly just overwhelmed with feeling like I needed to switch into, okay, I'm running a coaching business and I'm focusing on a one-on-one offer, to, okay, I'm mentoring coaches and I'm trying to get folks into this certification and mentor them in their business and all of these things. And what I would kind of play around with in my head a lot, and this, when I tell you guys, this decision probably took 2 years to actually make. And I would play around with what kind of play out the script in full, right? Well, what would that look like if I made that decision? What does that mean for business revenue, for team members, for myself, for my schedule? What else could I do with the time that I'm no longer needing to put into the coaching business? And doing that and really playing out the script and speaking to other people, having resources, I'm in a business coaching group, a mastermind, and I would lean on people there and get them to ask me questions and help guide me towards a decision. And they were all probably really sick of me talking about it because I would keep coming to like the same retreats we would have with the same thing. Which at some point the decision's going to be made for you, right? So I was aware of that and I wanted to get ahead of that. I wanted to get ahead of, this is going to fall apart somewhere if I don't make this decision. So I ran through my fears a lot. Like, what was I afraid of if I were to make this decision? Disappointing people, losing revenue in the business, like monthly recurring revenue from coaching clients, things like that. And what I would do with those fears then is go, okay, if I make this decision and I have fear number 1, 2, and 3, what am I going to do about it? What would that look like? What would have to happen? And truly like sat down with team members and talked about, where would we make up this revenue? What needs to happen instead? Like down to the numbers, so that I could just feel safe in making the decision. And I think that's so often what is required for us to make a confident decision is safety. And that is so much just a typical biological mechanism of ours. We want to feel safe so that we can survive. And so once I like sifted through all of that, it felt like a confident decision. I made the decision, and it's now been 6 months since that's happened. And I can tell you right now, just like being totally transparent, we're not in a place where we're like fully making up the revenue from that. But I don't feel fear around it. And I think it's because I spent so much time working on my mindset through all of this to begin with at the forefront. So I knew when I made this decision that I felt good about it. And I still feel really good about it. And I think also with that, pay attention to how you feel. And here's where I can get a little bit woo-woo, but your intuition, we'll call her, will know a lot of things too. So even if we're not sitting here like, wow, as soon as I made this decision, now everything else blew up and it's been amazing and we're bringing in all of this money and we're helping so many people. Even if that's not happening, I'm still feeling good about the decision. And I think that is so important. That's so important that even without being like proving to myself that we can do all of this other stuff and it's going to be magnificent, if I didn't also feel pulled in this other direction, I'm still feeling happy and like it was the right decision. Like that is something to pay attention to. So that's where I'm at. And I think with a lot of those fears too, it was questioning, is this my mind trying to protect me, trying to keep me safe? Or is this actually a legitimate fear and something we need to pay attention to? Take that question and you can apply it freaking everywhere. Is this my brain trying to protect me, or is this a real concern? That'll help you a lot. And, talking about business, dude, business. Being a business owner is the greatest mindset work opportunity that exists. Sure, I'm a little bit biased here, but actually this is truly on the application page for the Growth Collective. The Growth Collective is my one-on-one business mentorship container. I work with between 5 to 10 people individually on their businesses. It's a small group, sort of like a mini mastermind opportunity, but you get a lot of one-on-one time with me. So on the application page for the Growth Collective, which I will also link the interest list into the show notes of this episode. So if you're like, wow, I would really love to work with Kasey one-on-one in my business, I would love to work with you too. We only open up spots a couple times per year. So I'll throw the interest list in the show notes if that's something that you are interested in. But on the application page, some of the copy that is written on that page says, business is the biggest mindset exercise, but are you actually leveraging that to the best of your ability and to your advantage? And I feel like every day, every week, there's some sort of something related to business that I have to work through and get my own mindset on board. Just the ups and downs, the heaviness, the responsibility, the burden that I often feel for other people's success. Hundreds and hundreds of people count on me every single week, not just within my team. I don't have hundreds of people on my team, I promise you. But students and clients and the mentorship clients I was just talking about in the Growth Collective, I feel a lot of responsibility for their success, and that weighs on you. It does. And from a growth mindset perspective, how I manage this, because here's the thing, you can't get rid of it. You're going to feel those feelings unless you are a sociopath and you don't care. But I care a lot. I care a lot about the success of my students and everyone that I'm working with and making sure my people are taken care of. And if I didn't care, then these things wouldn't be a concern. But also then I probably wouldn't have a business. So I guess there's a reminder there for you, is if you're feeling those feelings that I feel, remind yourself that it's for a reason and it's because you care a lot. And that's actually a really good thing. And I think too, I know I would not trade what I get to do for anything else in the world. In fact, I was just having this conversation with myself on a walk with Letty, my dog, prior to sitting down to record this podcast, and was like, okay, I got to gear up, got to go sit in front of the microphone and talk for what will be today hours on end. And it just kind of like, obviously there's a little bit of like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But then I grab that thought and go, this is so cool that you get to do this, that for a living, you get to go sit down in your cute little office and just talk about the shit that you love the most. Like, cut the shit, right? Like, get out of here. What are you worried about? What are you complaining about? I wasn't even really complaining. It's just a little bit of like, the momentum to get in here and do the thing. So this is like a place where I do feel like gratitude is just important. And you guys hear this stuff all of the time, but if you're grateful for it, and also if there's nothing else you would rather be doing, then this is just part of the job, my friend. Like, the ups, the downs, the heaviness, the burden, all of it is insignificant. It's trivial in comparison to how fucking lucky I am to be able to do this. And I hope that is something that you can take away for yourself and in your life when you're feeling these certain ways, negative ways about what you're doing or situations that you're in. Yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Okay, what else we got in here? So also end of 2022. End of 2022 was a lot for me. I went through a breakup, and it was a very surprising breakup. It was not something that I really saw coming at all. And it came at a time too when there was like so much other stuff going on in my life. And during that, I made the decision to move to Texas from North Carolina. And I actually, gosh, even just reflecting on this whole situation, I still am so surprised at myself. I'm not surprised in that how I handled things from a mindset perspective. I think I did a pretty good job, but I'm still just surprised at how excited I was, how much I really did take a shitty situation and turn it around, I was so excited for the switch up and the uncertainty and okay, if it's not this person, who's it gonna be? Who's the guy that I'm gonna end up with if it's not this? Where am I gonna end up being? What's my life gonna look like if not this? When it felt so certain and so clear that this is the path that I was going to be on, and suddenly we made a really hard left turn. And that made me really excited. Of course, there was a lot of tears, a lot of tough emotions, a lot of hard conversations, a lot of darkness. But God, this is so cheesy to say, but I really feel like in the darkness, my mindset was shining the brightest that I'd ever seen it before. And I feel very proud saying this to you guys right now. But with that said, I cannot imagine how different that whole situation would have been if my main emotion and what I was so focused on was fear or was the heartbreak. And would I have even left North Carolina? What would that have looked like? What would have it meant for all my different relationships and things that I've cultivated since if I let fear kind of override everything else? And it doesn't mean that I don't still wear the scars and I can sit here and proudly talk about how I navigated that situation, but the scars are there, but I'm like, I hope they stay. And yeah, maybe this is like growth mindset coded too, but I want the scars because I want to be reminded of the strength that I had and what I went through and how I handled things. And yeah. So I guess with this too, something that's coming up for me is risk. And there's so much risk involved in love. There's so much risk involved in business. There's so much risk involved in anything that's worthwhile. And my hope for all of you listening to this is that you are willing to take the risk, even if you end up wounded and then carry scars for the rest of your life, because the risks are still so worth carrying around those scars, especially if you can reframe and assign different meaning to what those scars are. Oh, man. Okay, so on that note, I have been single for a long time. This is funny because I talk about dating and I talk about relationships a decent amount on the podcast as it relates to like my personal life and things that I'm going through. I'm not single right this second. I am seeing someone. I am in a committed thing with a man, and that is going very well. It is still very new, but I was single for close to 2.5 years. And that's the longest I've ever been single for. And I wanted to bring this up specifically because I've had y'all ask me, I'm 30 something and single. How are you handling the loneliness and the fears around fertility and all of these things? And you guys have talked to me about it a lot, and I love that you are. And it's interesting because I haven't actually really been that afraid of being single. I enjoy being single. I like being by myself, running by my own schedule. No one got to tell me what to do. But of course there is that kind of voice that's like, well, what if you don't find that person? Or in a new relationship, what if this person still isn't it? And then you just quote unquote waste another 2 to 4 years of your life on the person who's not the one. Yeah, those feelings still come up, but I have a lot of understanding for this, especially if you are 30 something and single, or 40 something and single, or 50 something and single. And I also like, especially like I'm 32. At my age, I have a lot of friends who are on their third baby at this point. And then I have my single friends who often are in my ear with their fears and their worries and all of these things about being single. And I think the biggest suggestion here is just do your best to cut out the noise and really ask yourself how you feel, because I can hear all of these things and I can support my friends, but how do I actually feel? I feel like I'm fucking awesome. And at some point, I'm going to come across another fucking awesome person who wants to conjoin our fucking awesomeness. And whether that's tomorrow or it's 2 years from now or it's 10 years from now, that's honestly okay with me. And I would rather wait. I would rather be by myself and cultivate relationships with all of my amazing friends and students and team members and all of this stuff, that all these other relationships that fulfill me, than jump into something that isn't it. And I would rather spend 10 years single, not necessarily even alone, because I'm never alone. I'm never lonely. I'm never lonely. And I guess maybe that's like a piece of information that's important too. I have such a great community of friends. I feel supported all of the time. I always have someone to talk to. I literally have to be like, I cannot go out tonight because I need to be by myself. So that helps a lot. And in general, just I feel like I've built such a beautiful life for myself that I always have that to come back to. So if something doesn't work out, or if I am single for a very long period of time, that's okay, because my life is awesome. And also, like, if I can find someone who can make my life awesomer, like, the bar's high. The bar's high. Like, if you can even support me and do the things that my girlfriends do for me, like, let's see if you can even measure up to that, which I'm so grateful for. And I'm aware that not everyone has that. So I guess if you're listening to this and you feel like you were in that situation, like, those are the things that I would recommend. Pour into all of your other relationships, pour into yourself. And I know you've heard this, like the benefits of being alone and how you have to take care of you first and all of those things, but it really does matter. And if you've built a life that you're obsessed with, then you will be fine to wait for the person who could try to add to that, because you've already got it made, you know? I feel like I'm taking these in totally different directions that I didn't necessarily plan. So whenever that happens, though, I'm like, that has to mean that someone listening needed to hear those words. So maybe that's you. Okay, the last thing I have is actually not even really my story, but it's one of my dad's. So my dad had a tumor in his spinal cord, and he didn't know it until he jumped into a pool at one of our family friends' house and landed on like a pool floaty and suddenly couldn't feel his legs. Was rushed to the hospital, obviously did all the tests, found the tumor, whatever. And that was obviously a very grueling process for him. It was a lot on our family, and something I'm sharing this because my dad has such a perfect example of a growth mindset. And the doctors told him, surgeons told him, after the tumor was removed from his spinal cord and they did their best to repair. I mean, it's your spinal cord. That's a really big deal. They told him that he would never walk again. And he was in a wheelchair for a very long time, would still go to PT. And he told the doctors, watch me walk again. And what bothers me so much about this is that these doctors, these surgeons are going to their patients and instilling a fixed mindset in them, because the person who's operating on you, remove the tumor, is in their white coat with their stethoscope, is this authority figure, is saying you're never going to walk again. You're probably going to believe them. You're probably going to think, okay, well, this is my new reality. And if you believe that's your new reality, would you care to go to PT? Would you care to try to walk again if the hotshot surgeon is telling you that you won't? Probably not. Most people would not. So that like really bothers me, because now I'm like, how many people has this doctor come into contact with where he said, you're never going to be able to do this again. And then they go, okay, heard. And then they don't. But if they were to have tried, they would. they could. And it's like, just where mindset matters so much. My dad did everything and then some to be able to walk again, and he does today. You can't like give him a pat on the back in the wrong spot, otherwise he will truly collapse. And he definitely has a lot of things that, like, after effects of all of that will stay with him for the rest of his life. But this man, he's out there landscaping. It was his birthday the other day, and I was like, oh, what do you have planned today? I'm spreading mulch, spreading wood chips, and I'm baking bread. And I was like, okay. It's just classic dad things. My dad was really I know making sourdough has become such a trendy thing to do, but he's been doing it for like a decade and he's so good at it. It's like, you need to get on Instagram, Dad, make some reels. But he walked successfully to this day, and very much was kind of like a stick it to them type of energy that he had, but it was a growth mindset through and through. So I wanted to share that one with you too. It's obviously a story that's near and dear to my heart, and also is very, very mindset coded. So yeah, okay. That's all I have for you. I feel like my own gears are actually like spinning now in like other directions for future episodes and things. But again, I would really love to hear your feedback on these types of episodes. It's not entirely comfortable for me to sit here and share all of those things, but as you can tell, I'm such a teacher at heart that even me sharing these personal stories, my thought is, okay, well, who's listening to this? What is their takeaway? How can they better their lives based on this story? I'm not just going to sit here and tell you about all the difficult things that I've been through. And obviously this was only a very small subset of all of them. Yeah, but all of them have so much good that came on the other side. And if you can get to the point where you're in those situations and get excited for what that means for you on the other side, it's the secret sauce. It's like the life secret sauce. Okay, I'm actually me done now. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I'll see you next time.